Hello and welcome back to the Power of Giving series. My name is Getrude Matshe. I am based here in Wellington, New Zealand. And today I have the absolute pleasure and honor of interviewing Taco Bell's CEO, Greg Creed. Greg, welcome to the Power of Giving.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's nice to talk to you in Wellington.
Thank you. Greg, like we discussed before our interview, I'm really looking for CEOs who are behind the face of most big corporates and just trying to find out what your organization is doing to give back.
Yeah.
So I would like you just to share with us, what changed your life when someone gave to you?
Sure. Well, I think I think there's two things people can give, right? It's usually money or time. But the most precious thing is actually time, because I think a lot of people find it easy to write a check, and then they write a check and they think it's absolved them of having to do anything else. And so the people who have had the most impact on my life are not those who necessarily wrote a check, but were those who really took the time to help me. I have a great story about, when you have an uncle who's not an uncle, who was like 20, he was about 10 years older than I. So when I was 12, he was 22. When I'm 17, he's 27. And, usually 22-year-olds and 27-year-olds don't want to spend a lot of time with 12-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And so what I found was just, this was the son of a friend of mine who sort of was like an uncle, but wasn't really. And he was very successful. He was a lawyer. And it was just, I think the fact that he spent time with me just to talk to me, to ask about life, what's happening, and to sort of talk about all the choices that as a teenager you sort of had to make. And that occurred really as I was a teenager, right? So you're finishing high school, you're thinking about where you go to college. And what that really has morphed into at Taco Bell is really our focus on helping teens to graduate high school. Because I think that teenagers it's not an easy time of your life, right? No. It's difficult. There's a lot of choices. Sometimes the choices teenagers make are not necessarily great ones. And there's a lot of, I think, charity done, but there's not a lot of help for teenagers to help them make better decisions. And so what we've done at Taco Bell is really rally around a single-minded focus, which is to help teenagers graduate high school. Now, we're not necessarily saying you have to go to Ivy League colleges or universities, but to have a really sound education, we think is really critical to helping set up, the youth of the future. And in the United States, at least, there's a teenager dropping out every 26 seconds, dropping out of school. And I think that is, if you think about it, to me, society's obligation is to offer our children an education, because I think for a lot of people, education is really the only chance you have to change maybe the life that you've got. Because, there are people, there are kids who think, well, I might go in the NBA, I might become in the NFL, I might become a professional golfer. Yeah, about, less than 200 kids a year, that'll impact, right? So I think giving kids the reason to stay in school, helping them with the choices to make, and really focusing our foundation on getting teens to graduate. So we've set the bold goal. We want to get 100,000 more teens a year to graduate high school than are currently graduating high school in the United States. And so we've primarily focused the foundation and all the energy and work we have around that cause. So we've worked with the Boys and Girls Club primarily. We've obviously worked with a lot of other organizations, primarily to get kids to graduate high school, to go on and try and lead a more productive and a more, I guess, contributing life to society.
So you touched on something that's very close to my heart. I think I mentioned earlier that I'm from Zimbabwe, right, and education is really what got me to where I am. What is it about education that changes a child's life or an individual's life, do you think?
Well, I think without education, there's little chance you can change your life. You've either got to win the lottery, become a professional sports player, or get yourself an education. And I think that in the time that I've been at Taco Bell 12 years, and probably in the 15 years that we've been working with teenagers to get them to graduate, it's not that we've raised $40 million or spent over $40 million. I've met these kids where an education has changed their life. We talk to kids who, they have to get on 3 buses to get to a school, or their parents aren't necessarily as supportive, or the family doesn't have the money, but they have persevered in an amazing sometimes against the most amazing odds, and yet an education is the one key thing you can point to that has changed their life. And so I think that without an education, it's really impossible to imagine that a lot of people are going to change their destiny. And, why can't someone who is struggling today be tomorrow's doctor that cures cancer? So, the line we have is, we sell tacos, we don't cure cancer, but maybe we can help a young teenager graduate, go on to become a doctor, and that person cures cancer. So that's our lofty goal, which is really single-mindedly, how do we help teenagers graduate high school and go on to live, productive lives in society?
Now, in doing my research, I noticed that your organization is doing a lot around the world, around education and food, especially.
Correct. Yeah.
I noticed your Hunger to Hope project.
Yes.
Being from Zimbabwe, I can so relate to the importance of giving kids good nutrition so they could just sit in a classroom and read.
Yeah.
Now, it's an interesting dichotomy, because if there is food in the school, it's another added incentive for the children to come to school, correct? Especially in the developed world.
Well, we basically sponsor the school lunch programs, because you can give people, what's interesting, I've been to El Salvador, Nicaragua, Haiti. I've had a chance to go where, the program, the food, the food program we're a part of. If you just give people food, but you don't intrinsically link it to education. So, what we do is we basically promote and support school lunch programs. And parents know that if they have a choice, they can either send their children out to work in the fields or they can send their children to school. What they know is if they send them to school, they'll get a meal. They may not appreciate the value of the education they're going to get, but if we have to use food as the vehicle to get them to school, to get an education, then that to me is intrinsically linking the need for nutrition and obviously food with this desire to help more people, get an education. So our parent company, which is Yum, works with the World Food Program. And what we've done within Taco Bell, within Yum, is intrinsically link school lunch programs, which then links, going to school, getting a meal, getting a hot meal traditionally, and then obviously getting an education at the same time. So it may be that they're going for the food, but the outcome is they get a meal, but they also get an education versus working in the fields for a couple of dollars, not getting a hot meal and not getting an education. So that's how we've linked with the amazing work that our parent company is doing with the work that we're doing at Taco Bell. And the opportunity to go to some of these places, like as I said, like El Salvador, Nicaragua, Haiti, to see in action the success of people, of talking to parents who traditionally would not send their kids to school, but they send the kids to school because they know they will get a really nutritious hot meal. And what we see then is the benefit of while they're at school, we can give them an education.
That is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so that leads me to my next question. What changed your life when you gave to someone else?
Well, it's interesting. We have a program. We have a corporate jet, which is probably a little, sounds very, wonderful. But there's a program called Angel Care. And Angel Care is an opportunity for us to take sick patients for free when the jet is traveling from, place A to place B. And so we work with Angel Care, and we let people know where the plane's going. And if we can take sick people with us, a number of things occur. One, we can take nurses on the plane or oxygen on the plane. There's less people on the plane, so there's less chance they'll get an infection or a cough or a cold from someone else. So I had a chance about 5 years ago. There was a young lady called Elise Coco, and I only met her for one day. She flew with me from Orange County or California to New York via Houston, and she was suffering from Hodgkin's or recurring Hodgkin's disease. I only met her for one day. She basically sat opposite me in the seat. We spoke for a day, and she had what was called recurring Hodgkin's. She had struggled with 4 or 5. She'd get it, she'd get over it, she would get it again. And what was the most profound thing for me was that despite what was happening to her, in recurring Hodgkin's, there's not a very high success rate. She was totally concerned with helping others who were being diagnosed with the disease. So she set up her own website, she set up blogs, she answered the sort of questions that patients had that doctors unfortunately either didn't want to answer or, you know, they're doctors and they didn't answer. Unfortunately, Elise passed away, and her father has set up a foundation. I'm on the foundation as we obviously try to you know, to find a cure for Hodgkin's.
So, to find out more about how you can help and support teenagers through the Taco Bell Foundation, please go onto their website, which is tacobellfoundationforteens.org. And remember, it's not about the giving of money all the time. It's the gift of your time. It could be your time in taking a teenager under your wing as a mentor. It could be inviting them to your organization for a day so they can see people in the workplace. Or better still, invite them to your university or your college and give them exposure to higher education before they finish high school. I really have to thank Getrude, the CEO of Taco Bell USA, for taking the time to have this interview and share his view on the precious gift of time. Thank you.